That took a hot minute today. I was like, is it working?
Good morning.
Good morning, everybody.
Good
How
morning.
we're in November already. What happened?
It went very, very quickly. Very quickly. As you can see, I'm very bundled up today. I feel like summer and the cold part of fall happened really fast. Like the transition was too quick. So there's a few cute little, breezy outfits that I didn't quite get to wear because the moment passed too quickly. I didn't leave the house often enough. So I am learning my lesson. Next year, I will not be home at all from summer through November 1st. I have to go outside every day.
Yes, yes. So Friday, right? Friday was Halloween.
Mm-hmm.
Do you get trick-or-treaters in your neck of the woods?
No, it's more centralized, so everybody goes downtown, and then there's famous street downtown, or just off downtown, that all the houses are all close together, so it's more trick-or-treat friendly, but the whole town goes and trick-or-treats there. So, and that's just, half a mile from actual downtown, and then there's vendors, and everything's a festival. Like if there's an opportunity to pop up a tent and give away candy, like the town is in on it. So so there was plenty of Halloween fun had, but no, nobody's going on a mile walk to get to the next house.
I didn't think so, but I thought I would ask. But I, who live in a very residential neighborhood. I know there are kids that live in this neighborhood. Um, and maybe they just knew because I did not go buy any candy because I knew like if I bought candy, it would end up in my mouth. And but I did not have a single knock on the door. Not one.
Well, did you leave you're supposed to leave your light off. If you leave your light off, then people should know not to knock.
I've done that in the past and have still gotten knocks. Like lots.
Really? That's
Yes.
funny.
Well, I was a little surprised, but happy because I didn't have to ignore the knocks. Usually I would also just like end up not being at home because I don't have kids. I'm not that interested in getting up, and I think it was like frustration too, like in past years. Like I'd get up and answer the door and there'd just be kids in their street clothes, and like yes, I get it, like not everybody can afford a costume, but like make some kind of attempt or something. So it's like it's giving like food out to, like, isn't that supposed to be like the reward for your costume or something?
That's
I
funny.
don't know. But
I don't know. That's interesting. I do think that I don't know. To me, like I loved taking my kids around for Halloween, and I always worried about what candy they were actually getting. I don't know about you, but I grew up in the time of like they're putting razor blades in your apples, all this terrifying things, which I've never found anything nefarious in my or my children's, Halloween candy.
I have
But
to say, I
I've been
think that
on high alert since I was
yeah.
like 5. So anyway, yeah, I don't know. I don't know what kids are up to, but I do know that trunk or treats have become a lot more popular. So a church or some sort of community group will, gather in a parking lot or a field. And honestly, as a parent, that's like 1,000 times easier. A lot of our neighborhoods are not walkable. A lot of our neighborhoods don't have sidewalks. And so honestly, I get it. Like being the parent of a small child, I'd rather take my kid to an event where I could have safe parking, know that the people there are somewhat vetted, right? And they're handing out candy in good faith and not putting razor blades in apples or whatever it is that all the bad people are supposed to be doing. So yeah, so I get that. I get it. Yeah. Did you do traditional trick-or-treating when you were little?
Oh yeah, yes.
Yeah.
And we made our costumes, and um, there was a thing at the elementary school, like a contest for who had the best costume and whatever. And but yeah, I grew up in I will say mid-sized town. Like we considered it a city, but population was around 40 some thousand. And which, big city people are like, that's not a city, that's a town. But like for us, a town is like something like that's, 2,000 population 2,000 or something
Right.
like
Right.
that.
Yeah, I was going to say we're like in that 2,000 and below category. So 40,000 already sounds like I'm not going.
There you go. So, but like, back then, you knew all of your neighbors, and we were trick or treating through the neighborhood, and so for the most part, we knew the people whose house we were going to their door and who we were getting candy from. So it was considered very safe back then. What it's like in the places I grew up, what it's like today, I have no idea, because nobody I know lives in those places anymore. Well, actually, I do know some people, but I've never had this conversation with them. But my dad's in the country, my brother's in the country, everybody's in the country. So there's no trick-or-treating there, as far as I know.
So what is okay, let me try that again. Take two. What is your favorite Halloween costume that you've ever worn?
Honestly, not really that into it. Like a lot of times as a kid, I would go as a clown. I know it's like everybody's got creepy clown stories, but there was a time I collected clowns. My bedroom was decorated in clowns. As an adult, I typically go as myself, a witch. But I don't know, like not so much my thing. And you?
I remember, I don't remember dressing up often, but I do remember that one time, I think it was like in 3rd or 4th grade, something like that. I dressed up as Dracula, and I remember it because I got to have like face paint on. So my whole face was white. My lips were bright red, and I had the cape, and my hair was slicked back. And so, yeah, that was kind of fun being Dracula. That was cool. But yeah, other than that, I mean, even decor in my house nowadays, it's like, okay, I'll put out like 3 pumpkins, 2 crows, and a skull, and we're good. Like, gotta go. I will say I'm not as I don't know, dedicated as some, but I really respect those people that put like 1,000 lawn ornaments out, and they make graves in their front yard, and like I love it. I love seeing it, and I appreciate those people, and thank you for doing the work, because I can't.
Yeah, I don't decorate for anything anymore, which is interesting because I grew up in households that we weren't like the million lights out in the yard, but inside the house, the perfect Christmas trees and all the little Christmas doodads all around the house. Like I definitely grew up in that. I've attempted to do it from time to time over the years, and I did it for my first Christmas when I bought this house, because it was like, I feel like, and then someone stole my Christmas tree, and I was like, I'm done. I'm done.
That's the saddest story I ever heard.
Well, and it wasn't like it was stolen on purpose. I had loaned the tree for an event. They needed trees not to be Christmas trees, but to be like pine tree forest trees. And so, but I could not attend the event, but I was like, sure, I will, you can borrow my tree. Yeah. And so I got my box back, but it had someone else's tree in it. And I was like, this tree is horrible. I mean, first of all, because my house is tiny, I had like the pencil tree. It was super skinny. And this tree that they put in, how they fit this tree inside my pencil tree box, I don't know. But interestingly, that year, that Christmas, when I opened the box and realized my tree was not in the box, this woman, I don't know how, like not someone that we're friends or anything, but somehow she pops up in my feed that, she's new to the area. Her funds are really limited, but she has 2 little kids and she would really love to have a Christmas tree. Could anybody help her out? And I was like, I got a tree. It's yours. Just pick it up. And
There
she
you
did.
go.
She came. It was like I had given her the greatest thing in the world. And that was the end of my Christmas decorating. So I feel like that was a beautiful ending. So I don't
Yeah,
remember this woman's name. I don't know if she's still using that tree, but it worked out perfectly.
that's awesome. That's really cool. And we always do a fresh tree. So I'm excited this year to grab a tree from the woods or something. I don't even know how it's done around here, but I'm excited. So,
Go find a cut your own and you walk through. And we did that as kids growing up. Like that was something I really enjoyed doing. And the rule was always in my house growing up, because my birthday is on December 1st, everybody. But like a lot of people like to have decorations up for Thanksgiving. And I was like, no Christmas decorations are allowed until after my birthday. And but I remember, like, there were times I remember, like, it had already snowed. And so we're out, like, tromping through the snow, finding our perfect tree. And, we'd find the tree and Dad would cut it down. And yeah, those were cool family memories that you can only have, like, living in a place that has true winter.
yeah, that sounds like a National Lampoon's Family Vacation. If that had that been my family, for sure.
No, ours was like Leave It to Beaver. Like, everything was perfect.
Yeah.
Oh,
Oh,
man.
well, very exciting. I'm glad that the holidays have begun.
Yeah. And we should probably get on the topic of the day. So, our topic today is from achievement to alignment when success isn't enough. And I just feel like I spend almost every day hearing these stories, people coming in and just struggling with um, work life and not supporting them on a personal level, because so many people have figured out how, they got the career and they're making the money and everything on the outside looks picture perfect, but everything on the inside is not. And how do you see that in this world?
Yeah, I mean, I definitely see it. And I mean, I'm 51. I've experienced it at least once or twice in my own life. I think the way that I see it showing up most often is you get on a track with the best of intentions and the desire to achieve and, do all the things, right? Set your SMART goals and, meet your profit first numbers and do all the things, right? And then all of a sudden, like 20 years later, you kind of wake up and you're like, hey, wait a minute, what was I doing anyway? And that's kind of the thing I see the most often, is burnout being the trigger for I'm doing everything. Why aren't I happy? And I think what I've seen the most is that somewhere along the line, that compass, that true north, guidance system kind of fell by the wayside. And it's no one's fault. It's just part of that process. When you kind of start that slippery slope of, oh, I'll do my, inner work tomorrow, or I don't have time for this because I need to do that. Right. And so we start reprioritizing little by little until you forget what you were doing in the first place. Definitely that's something I've personally experienced.
Yeah, it's interesting for me because I feel like um I've always, like, made that piece of space to fill my soul. Um and there were challenges along the way of trying to figure out how how to get rid of the things that didn't align with my soul. And again, taking the biggest steps 2 years ago of releasing that license of physical therapist and that label of physical therapist, and releasing, dealing with insurance companies, and releasing soap notes and those pieces of my professional life that didn't, you know, fill my soul. But I feel like I was always connected and finding those ways to fill my soul. And when I see, you know, so many people, especially coming to private sessions with me, coming to the events, and you know, from the outside, their life looks picture perfect. And then when we sit down and have the conversations and figure out what's going on, it's just like their outside life is not lining up with their inside life. Yeah, inside life. And they're taking some steps, but it's interesting to me when I show them, you know, like what the other possibilities are. It's often met with resistance. Like, I can't do that. I don't have time for that. And, you know, so I think the big question is, how do we get rid of that resistance? Because they know that they want it. And then you show them, like, here are all these possibilities to help you find yourself again, feed your soul, feed your heart. But it's almost like you know, and I use this word all the time, like the programming is so strong that even when you show them the way, they still can't take that first step and go there.
I think we all have that to a certain extent, right? You know, I think that the path being laid out before you has never been the answer. And I don't think that you can convince anyone of anything. I think that people have to become sick and tired of their own shit. And at some point, you hit that tipping point where you're like, okay, no matter what it takes, I'm going to now do this next thing, right? So as a retreat leader and you know, somebody to, you know, that does the things that I do, whether it's photography or the body and soul type stuff, all I can do is really hold that space for that person to reach that themselves, right? Like, I'm an overweight person. I know that diet and exercise is the answer. I get it. I have my own obstacles to it, right? And you could talk to me about it till you're blue in the face. Honestly, it's kind of fucking annoying. Like, I don't want to hear it anymore. You know what I'm saying? So, you know, the way to wealth, we all know the way to wealth. There's 1,000, you know, people around us that have found absolute wealth. And why am I not super wealthy? Because I don't want to be super wealthy, right? And I do, right? But somewhere in me, I don't. So, you know, knowing how to do the thing doesn't make you want to do the thing, right? Like, I know how to run marathons. I don't want to run a marathon right now, right? And maybe what we're seeing is, you know, well, I can't because, right? That statement is a cover. That's, you know, for me it is, right? It was really hard for me to do XYZ, and these are all the obstacles that I see. And because I see them, they are obstacles. Until I stop seeing them as obstacles, they're always going to be there, right? So I don't know that anybody can convince anybody. The best thing I've ever seen is just live your best life and let that be the example. You know, I know that the ways that I have been changed in my life has never been because somebody told me what to do. It has always been because I've seen someone living a life that I thought, man, I want to feel like that. I want to do that, you know, and my own curiosity took me there. Does that make sense?
Absolutely. Yeah. You know, as sitting in the seat as a healer, you know, it's like, it is what I do to help people. And so I've definitely like relaxed much more into, you know, people are going to do what they're going to do. And I can just plant seeds and water them. But ultimately it's up to the seed to grow. Like, I can't force the seed to grow. And, but you know, when you're in that position of healer, I think in the past I would take it really personal when people would come to me for help and then not take the help and just keep going and doing what they were doing and keep complaining about it. And now I'm just like, it's their path. So you come to me, I share what I got, and you can take it or you can leave it, and it's all good.
Yeah. I mean, I think the hardest thing is, as a person who needs change, right, is realizing that you're the only one that can do the change, you know? I mean, that's really the bottom line. And that's, to me, the hardest, the biggest hurdle is realizing that you can hire a million people to do a million things, but there's a part of that inner work that's just got to be you, you know? And when you don't tackle it, then you end up with the same patterns in your life, right? Like people that get really successful and then they lose everything, and then they get really successful again and then they lose everything again, right? Or people that are super successful in their business lives, but their love lives are always a wreck, you know? Or they're super passionate in their love lives, but their children are a hot mess, you know, and it's the same pattern, right? So until you break up that pattern, until you really look deep into it and figure it out, it keeps showing up, you know? And I think that's the achievement / misalignment, you know, trap, right? It's like, okay, I've done all the things. Why aren't I happy? And, you know, hey, be happy that you did all the things, because now you have a nice little bank account and you can come to our retreats. But you still got to come. Like, you still got to do the thing. You know what I mean?
You got to show up and do the thing. And yeah. I've seen that time and time with clients who, you know, I tell the story about the billionaire client that I had. You know, he was referred to me by another practitioner, and very early on, I was like, something's weird about this guy. I don't know. So I don't normally do this, but I'm like, I Googled this guy, and like Google's like, you know, this guy's a multi-billionaire. And I'm like, oh, holy crap. And, you know, he came to me for a bunch of sessions because he could. It was easy. He had all the money in the world to do whatever he wanted. But it then became obvious that he thought, like, just by paying me, that I would do the work for him. And it's like, you could pay me all your $1 billion if you want it. I can't heal you. Only you can heal you. And here I'm like showing you the way. And, you know, and the saddest thing was, like, this guy had zero happiness in his life. You have all the money in the world, but you're not happy. And, you know, it's like, if this isn't like the biggest example of money can't buy you happiness, then I don't know what is. But, like, we all have it within us to make these change and shift. And it's the remembering of it. You know, we've all forgotten, you know, we get born into this 3D world and our memory is erased, and then we got to try and figure it out. And we get so distracted by the programming that's out there, and that success looks like a lot of money in your bank account and a beautiful house and a beautiful family, and, you know, all these trips and this clothes and that watch. And, you know, if you're just doing it to do it, not because it's truly your heart desire, like, no, it's not going to create happiness. And tuning back into our true self and listening to our intuition. And that's been a big topic lately, is, you know, so many people, it's like they knew they were going down the wrong path, and they did everything to convince themselves that they weren't. And so they ignore their intuition, and then the claim that they don't have intuition. But when we sit down and talk about it, it's like, yes, they have the intuition. They just didn't listen to it. And I think, you know, that's the most important thing that you can do, is listen to yourself, your intuition, not that ego voice that's talking in your head and telling you what you should do, but listening to that intuition of telling you what your heart wants you to do. And, you know, talking about the compass, like, that is the compass. Let your heart be your compass, and remember the truth of who you are. That sovereign divine being that's within each and every one of us. And yeah, choosing things like coming to a cacao ceremony, coming to a chakra balancing, having an amazing photo shoot with Graciela Laurent, and coming to our retreats. And I do have to share with you, we had a sound event on a Sunday, and I overheard someone saying, the retreats that Julietta and Graciela do are the real deal. They're not just fluff and fluff and what, but it's the real deal, and it's about real transformation. And I think sometimes too, when it comes time to make that shift, um, diving into a retreat, a multiple day event where you really get to disconnect from the rest of the world and tune in, like that can be one of those things that really helps shift you out of the programming and get you started on following your compass and finding true joy in your life.
I think we need to also address fear and being uncomfortable. I think those are two really big components to everything that we're talking about. And again, speaking from personal experience and personal observations, the only thing that's ever gotten in my way is me. And I always talk about our brains like this sweet little organ that's just trying to do its best to keep us safe and keep us alive. Bless its little heart. But it is the most chicken shit organ in our entire body, a natural overthinker. And so when it sees discomfort, it's going to steer you away from it, you know? And the worst part about that kind of anxiety is that the longer you try to ignore it, the bigger it gets. So then I call it, not me, everybody calls it doing the work, right? And so doing the work, every time I say it, it sounds scarier and scarier and scarier. And eventually you'll be paralyzed. And like I said, 20 years of your life will have passed doing the thing that you never even wanted to do in the first place, but you're just doing it because you're there and because there's no fear going down that path, you know? The biggest leaps I have made in my life have been the absolute most terrifying things. And I remember, like, when I discovered that pattern, when I discovered that if I do the thing that terrifies me the most, I get the biggest reward, that was really one of the huge turning points in my life, you know? And I could tell story after story. If y'all want to come for a cacao and cards, I'll tell you the whole story. But you know, the most exciting, the most wonderful, the most opening, the most aligned experiences I've ever had have been the experience that have absolutely terrified the shit out of me. And some of it was simple, you know, like walking away from certain commitments that I had made, you know, or outgrowing certain things or people. I mean, God knows there's plenty of people that I used to, you know, talk to 30 years ago, and I don't talk to them today because they no longer served me. And it was really terrifying to put an end to that. But I'm so much better in my life right now because I don't have that toxicity next to me, which in the moment, maybe it wasn't. In the moment, it was what I needed, but it's not what I need now. So I think it is a deliberate and important practice to be comfortable with being uncomfortable. And I will tell you that I have survived 100% of the uncomfortable, terrible things in my life. I don't know where I first heard that, but it said, remember that you have survived 100% of your days. Like, I have made money, lost money. I have cried to fill rivers. I have done 100 terrible things in my life, said 100 terrible things in my life. And all of these things are okay. And I'm still here and it's fine. And I'm doing all right. So don't let the fear of what could be or what might happen stop you from trying. Just check it out. You know, if it scares you a little bit, good. That means you're curious. There's something interesting happening. So go for it.
Yeah, you know, we did this transformational training a while back, and one of the things that was part of the program was doing things that stretched you. And, of course, you're sitting in the uncomfortableness of that and the fear of that. And one of, I think, like the greatest gifts that training gave me was like the experience of doing that thing that is so uncomfortable and seeing the rewards on the other side of it. And I was actually thinking about this the other day, because I went on a whole slew of just doing uncomfortable thing after uncomfortable thing after uncomfortable thing. It was almost, it was almost like an addiction, because it would feel so good to get on the other side of that. So I was just like, what can I do next? What can I do next to push myself? And not that I don't always push myself, but I was like, I feel like I'm like lacking a little bit of the extreme pushing lately. And so I'm like investigating a little bit, like where can I find a little bit harder push. But I also say that to like even if you can find that like simpler thing that feels scary, and just try that and see what's on the other side of that. Like if you take a baby step and do it and see like, oh, wow, that wasn't so bad. I actually liked what was on the other side of that. And then that gives you the impetus to, choose the next scary thing that your heart is saying yes, but your head is saying no. But just try it and see where that leads you. Because I feel like once you've broken that cycle of choosing the scary thing, then it just becomes like the thing to do, the scary thing, and see what's on the other side of it. And no, and not every single thing is perfect and the right choice. Or I shouldn't say the right choice, but you're not always going to have huge successes on the other side of that scary thing. But you will always learn something about yourself. It will help you set that compass and, help you find the path. Yes, sometimes you have to go down a sidetrack way that wasn't necessarily getting you to your destination faster, but it's teaching you important things along the way. And, not that I like quoting big corporations, but I'm going to quote Nike here and say, just do it.
There you go. The other thing that I think is important is letting people like be honest and let people tell you that they feel like shit. One of the things that I see so often as I'm in a group of women and everybody's, putting on their best face and they're so wonderful and everything is so great. And then as soon as that, group disbands, I get individual calls from individual people telling me how they really feel. And so I haven't quite figured out what the magic number is. I think groups of 4 to 5, maybe people feel comfortable saying really how they feel. More than that, people don't want to say how they feel. And so as someone who needs to be heard, I would say find the size, find a group that feels good to you to like say the thing that you don't want to say, right? And also as someone who holds space for others, when people tell you stuff, like let them have what they have. Do you know what I mean? Like I'm so anti toxic positivity. It's a trigger for me. It grinds me into the fucking ground when I say I feel bad and someone says it's okay. And I'm like, no, it's not. Like that, I can't stand. So you can always call me and tell me that you hate your family. It's okay. One of the most freeing experiences I had, I'll never forget this. I had just had the twins and there was, I had a hairdresser and she had twins and her twins were a year ahead of mine. So she had 1 year experience more than me. And she was like, how are you? And I was like, great. We're in a salon. Love my babies. And she leans over in my ear and she whispers and she goes, it's a fucking nightmare, isn't it? And I was like, oh my God, yes. Like I haven't taken a shower in 3 days and I can't breathe and I'm so tired. And honestly, that is like a baby version of doing the work, like just being honest enough to say, man, I feel like shit today. Like this is not a good day. My body doesn't feel good. Like seeing it, recognizing it, calling it out. And honestly, sometimes just saying it out loud to somebody that's willing to hear it and let you sit in that yucky feeling is enough. You know, sometimes that's enough to say, okay, whew, let me get my courage back up and go back out there and do it again, you know? So find your tribe, you know? And if you don't have a tribe, bro, we're your tribe. Like, we're the tribe. Literally call me. Like, it's free. I should be charging $20,000 for all the free, you know, therapy sessions that we do. But it's my pleasure. It is my joy. And I will tell you that, you know, and I'm sure you have this same experience. The more people walk in the door saying the same things, the more I say to myself, man, I wish y'all would just talk to each other. Like, you guys need to know that we're not alone, you know? And that's how, and I've said this before on the show, but that's how speakeasy nights started at the studio. And, you know, the classes and all the things that we did and all the retreats is like, you know, individually, we have all of these people that are saying the exact same thing. If you all would just get in the same room together, first and foremost, you would see that you're not alone. Second, and maybe this should be first, it is not shameful to feel the way that you feel, right? It is not shameful to have a really bad month in your business or to be going through a phase where you hate your husband or you can't stand the sound of your children even laughing, right? Because you just feel so prickly and you know, you're going through stuff. So anyway, I know I'm on my what's it called, soapbox, but yeah, it's just so important, you know? So like I said, you know, even our retreats are intimate. We really, you know, I think the biggest group we've ever assembled has been maybe like 20 plus people. But there's such sacredness and there's such respect and there's such confidentiality and all of these things. And everybody just feels so amazing to just come and talk, you know? So anyway, be honest, hold space for others and hold space for yourself. Allow yourself.
Yeah. And you know, everything that you were saying is exactly why community is such a pillar of Body and Soul Ministries. And, you know, I go to other events out there because I don't, you know, when you're sitting in the leader seat 90% of the time, like sometimes you need to sit in the passenger seat and just receive. But one thing I has become very aware in my consciousness here is that a lot of the events that are out there in the world, it's just like you go up, you show up, you receive whatever the event is offering, but there's no connection there. There's no community there. And that's what I love about our retreats, our cacao ceremonies, all of these events are creating community. And the people that show up is like, yes, I remember you from last time. And then they start creating connections. And so the tribe is just expanding and expanding. And all these people are supporting each other. And they've learned from being in our spaces that, you know, being honest and being there for each other is what heals and what changes things in this world. And so, you know, community is huge, and find your community. And like Graciela said, if you can't find it out there, find it with us, because we are here to create a loving, supportive, safe community for all of us to find ourselves and to find our north and do it.
You know what's really funny? One of the things that I love about retreats and all the personal development, all of that stuff, is like how quickly people bond with each other. And I'm one of those people. And how little anyone cares about the things that we think identify us the most. So in retreats, rarely do I ever find out what somebody does for a living, where they live, what their last name is. Sometimes it doesn't even come up if they're married or not, or have children or not, because all of that stuff is important when you look at the world this way, right? But when you really look at the world this way, like the way that it comes from your heart, none of that stuff matters. And so, like, if you want to talk about building your business, if you want to say, well, I don't have time to feel better, but I need to make more money. Great. I have the perfect solution for you. Join a retreat, join one of these communities. You create such beautiful, fun, crazy bonds with people that once you find out what they do for a living, you don't care what it is, you want to buy it. I don't care. Like, what do? You sell something, perfect. I'm going to buy that. You crochet, you're a potter, I don't know, you're a doctor, you're a roofer, whatever it is. I know I'm going to use you. Why? Because I have now met you on a soul level, on a real level. I know you're not a scammer. I know you're not a liar. I know you, right? Like, you get to know who people really are. And to distinguish yourself like that in your field, you're a lawyer, you're a doctor, whatever it is, man, that's amazing. I'm going to go to you for the rest of my life. Right. So even if you don't want to talk about your icky feelings or whatever that stuff is, if you really want to push your business ahead, you build yourself an army. And that's the fastest way to build yourself an army, is to be out there in a community like that. That's what I think anyway.
Yes. All this talk about retreats, reminder to everybody, January 9th through the 11th, we have the Wild and Free in Sebastian, Florida. We still have a few spots for that. And so if you're interested, you can find it on the Body and Soul Events website, or reach out to Graciela or I. We would be very happy to speak to you about it. And yeah, it's going to be magical, wild, and free. All right. I think that shows a wrap. And thank you all for listening. And if you enjoyed this episode, share it with a friend. We always love new listeners. And have a magical day, everyone.
All right. Bye, guys.